Hey, everybody. Welcome on into the Big Factor here on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan, Tyler, Jack Rourke, Nick Pideaux, and Rob Watson. Guys, we're recording this on Monday. We're just getting back from the weekend. If you're watching this on The Rock, well, it's a Tuesday, one day later. A lot to break down. Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Thunder tie that thing up. Nick Chubb, we're going to lead with that, obviously joining the Houston Texans. And minicamp, involuntary portion of Browns minicamp is starting tomorrow, June 10th. That'll be really the last piece of the Browns we get, at least on field action, until we get to actual training camp. And I believe that's late July. How are we doing today?
Involuntary, some might call it mandatory minicamp for the Browns to get going this week. Last time we'll really see the Browns on the field until later this summer when training camp gets going. So busy football week. Obviously, we got Rodgers officially on the Steelers. Nick Chubb's probably gone. NBA playoffs knotted up at 2. So they always say that this is the slow period, the slow time of the sports calendar, but it always finds a way to populate itself with items to discuss.
Jack, what's up, brother?
Ryan,
what are you sipping on today? Is that brisk?
Yeah, a little brisk lemon iced tea.
Free ad on Jack,
yeah, free ad.
10 a.m.
Yeah, sorry guys. Guys, there's a lot of energy in this room for the show today. I wouldn't say it's like positive or happy energy necessarily, but there's big like pitchfork angry mob vibes in this room right now, which is always great for content, I think. So I think it's gonna be a really strong show today.
Well, I'll tell you this, the rain and the gloominess doesn't help. The last couple days, it feels
what's
like
going on?
It's
Yeah.
like a flood. The weather, the warmth at least, is starting to break. Like I looked and it's like 70s consistently. The lowest you get is like the 60s, which is a nice sign. But it's just the constant rain. It feels like every day here in Cleveland, if that's where you're watching from, it's just been so dreary. And the Guardians almost getting swept doesn't help.
Dude, we're in
Can
mid-June.
we get to that segment?
Yeah,
no, we're not giving out a feeler. Oh, it's 65, 70.
Yeah,
it's
this is
June.
supposed to be
the kids
summer's
are in
almost
school,
over.
Ryan, and they're wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, summer's almost over.
We know that just started. It feels though.
It feels like winter, honestly.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this so many times on the show. Like everything got pushed back a month, but it feels like realistically everything got pushed back 2 months. All right, let's talk some actual football. Nick Chubb, the beating heart of the Cleveland football team, is now moving on. He's expected to sign with the Houston Texans today. Sources tell ESPN signing is contingent, of course, on Chubb passing a physical. Drafted second round out of Georgia for our Cleveland Browns and has been nothing exemplary of a perfect, awesome role model, really on and off the field here in Cleveland. And I know we're going to talk about it a lot, but I'll just be the first one to say here on the show, man, it's going to sting to miss him. And I'm glad, I'll say this, we don't play the Texans this year at least. Unless we meet in the playoffs. We'll see. Because it's just going to tear my heart to have to watch Nick Chubb rush for another football team that isn't the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of one. And I think everybody, will remember the on-the-field stuff because, like, there's not many running backs where you hand them the ball and you're guaranteed one massive run every single game. And you knew that those were game-changing plays in the moments when they happened. But I think like what real Browns fans and people that will have covered the team will remember Nick Chubb as like the consummate professional. Think of when Nick Chubb was drafted in 2018. He was through and through everything. When they acquired Jarvis Landry, when the drama with Odell Beckham Jr., the Baker Mayfield trade request, the Baker Mayfield injury, the COVID-19 pandemic, the Odell Beckham Jr. trade request, and then the Freddie Kitchens hire, the Myles Garrett helmet swing, like all of the things that Nick Chubb has survived, he hasn't had one incident of his own. He has been a consummate professional from day one until the absolute end. It's one where you wish it could have gone differently. It's another one where you look at his career at large and you could probably say, yeah, the team wasted, his best years. But obviously the Texans, now he gets to go to a contender and hopefully, Nick Chubb could win a Super Bowl in the NFL. It won't be for the Browns, but I think everybody in here will still pull for Nick Chubb.
That's a good topic, though, because it's impossible almost to cheer for the Texans knowing what they fleeced you for with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
But if anybody can make me cheer for that team, it's a guy like Nick Chubb.
Well, they continue to hold hold Andrew Berry with hold him up with a plastic toy gun. That's what they did with the Deshaun Watson trade. They made him put 3 first-round picks in the bag plus more. Then they beat the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs. Ironically, the pick that the Browns drafted Nick Chubb with was via the Houston Texans from the Brock Osweiler trade.
know that. Wow.
So it is funny how everything comes full circle, and now Nick Chubb goes to Houston. You know, they beat you in the playoffs. They really built their team and their core off the backbone that was that Deshaun Watson trade. I get that didn't get them C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, you know, some of those more important pieces came from other picks that were their own, but I have to believe that those 3 first-round picks, again, plus more, surely help the Texans expedite things. And it does feel like, you know, the Browns' opponent list is kind of growing. You know, you've got the AFC North teams, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Ravens. This year, you got to pull against Jacksonville. But the Texans are one that it's just a constant pain and a thorn in your side. You know that it's a, you know, Northeast Ohio dude running that team. So to constantly see them make the Browns be the fall team of their success does sting a little bit more.
What are they cooking though? What are the Texans? What are they like? Mixon, Chubb, Pierce, and they got like 100 receivers.
Well, they're not even going to keep Pierce because they drafted USC's third down back in the 4th round. So that kid's going to come in and help as well. Yeah. So it's a weird. It just stinks, guys, because like on the field, let's be honest, like we all knew the second they took Samson, whatever round, that Nick Chubb was totally gone at that moment in time about a month ago, but the last year of Nick Chubb wasn't what Nick Chubb was pre-injury against the Steelers 2 years ago. Like, we knew this was going to happen for a while now, but I saw Gab Gowdy tweeted this out. Like, if there's one thing, though, that kind of stinks, guys, if there's any team in the NFL you didn't want to do it, probably besides the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's a team who's pulled your pants down so many times in a row, like you said. It's bad.
Yeah, it stinks. And I think for Houston, what they're trying to do, I mean, this is year 3 for C.J. Stroud now, so I think what you do is you load up while your quarterback's on your rookie contract with as many vets as possible. That's why you saw them bring in Christian Kirk. That's obviously why they pivoted, you know, off the Stephon Diggs thing that they tried for 1 year last year. That didn't work out due to injuries. You know, they drafted Jaden Higgins. You know, you got Mixon, Chubb, Pierce, Woody Marks. Like, it's a loaded offense, and it's all tailored for C.J. Stroud to succeed. You could take that approach and look to what the Browns have here, and it just solidifies the case of Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. Like, these guys got to get on the field this year so the Browns could find out if either of them could be their young quarterback, because you could have some fun when you've got a young quarterback. You could bring in players like Nick Chubb. You could get a ton of talented receivers. When you got a young quarterback that you're not paying a whole lot of money, you could have some fun with it, and that's exactly what the Texans are doing.
You know, 2018, the year he was obviously drafted to the Cleveland Browns in the 2nd round, feels like so long ago. You remember that was obviously the year you drafted Baker #1 overall. That was the year Hard Knocks was featured on the Cleveland Browns, and I think it was the very first episode, you know, when they're flying into the airport to come to Cleveland. Everybody's there. Everybody's looking at Baker, taking pictures and talking to him and whatnot. And then it flips to a guy named Nick Chubb, who at the time many people really didn't know unless you were truly like an NFL guy, because Sony Michel, you know, his teammate drafted in the 1st round before him, and they're talking to him. And there's a guy in Hard Knocks who goes, yeah, what position do you play? And he says, I play running back, but all eyes are on Baker. And now Nick Chubb, at least in my lifetime, has been the best Browns running back I've ever seen. You know, we didn't get to see Jim Brown, Marion Motley, Ernest Biner, all those guys, but Nick Chubb, just the career he's turned around has been so amazing, and damn, it sucks that he's not going to be here.
You guys remember when Hugh Jackson gave him like 4 carries against the Raiders and he had like 150 yards and Carlos Hyde just got 15 carries?
Dude, they literally and then
it was like Moneyball when they're like, I'm playing Pena. You can't play Pena. He got traded.
Yeah, John Dorsey literally had to trade Carlos Hyde to force Nick Chubb onto the field. That did happen. Yeah, man, like it sucks, but at the same time, like the one message that I want out there to the Browns fans that like have their pitchforks out at the organization, like, why couldn't we have brought him back? Like, he's better than Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford plays special teams. And also, there's just no value for Nick Chubb or for the Cleveland Browns to bring him in here as a 3rd-string running back. Like, it's a youth movement the Browns are undergoing right now. They're throwing crap at the wall, and they're seeing what sticks. That's why you draft 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs. First team to ever do it in the history of the NFL draft. They're trying to figure some things out. They're going to let Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson get the king's ransom of these carries this year. There just wasn't room for Nick Chubb on this team. So as much as people want to be mad about the Browns for not bringing back Nick Chubb, he's not a coach. I'm sure he wants to go play on the field somewhere and contribute and try to win a championship to make something meaningful of his career. And I'm glad that he'll have the ability to do so with Houston.
Well, the 4-time Pro Bowler will turn 30 years old in December of this season. Mentioned he joins Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, Dare Ogunbowale, I always pronounce that one wrong, and rookie Woody Marks as the Houston Texans running back room. All right, we got to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk Browns mandatory minicamp. That kicks off tomorrow. But before we do, Nick, you got to tell us a little bit about Calling Companies Championship.
Yeah, well, for the last what seems like a decade, Nick Chubb has been the Browns staple in the running back room. But for 72 years, Firestone Country Club has been a staple for some of the greatest golfers in the history of the game. It's more than just a tournament. It's a celebration of the Northeast Ohio community and philanthropy, having raised over $34 million for charitable organizations. Over the last 2 years, the Calling Companies have raised $2.6 million and given that to 25 different Northeast Ohio charities. You got to come check it out. If you have never been, this is the year to go. It's one ticket for two experiences. When the great legendary golfers are done on the course, you also get access into the Calling Infinity Zone, which is the epicenter of all of the off-course fun. It's 50,000 square feet of food trucks, lounge areas, fan experiences, interactive activities, celebrity appearances will all be there. The Infinity Zone turns into a full-fledged music festival with live performances each night. You got to get your tickets today. ColleagueGolf.com. June 18th through the 22nd. Big Play Sports Network will be out there. Get your tickets, ColleagueGolf.com, and come see some legends of the game with us.
All right, we'll be right back on The Big Factor talking some Browns mandatory minicamp. Hey, everybody. Welcome on back to The Big Factor here on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Pideaux, and Rob Watson. We're going to jump into some of the headlines as Browns mandatory minicamp begins tomorrow, June 10th. But before, I got to tell you about our friends at Fairway Ford. Fairway Ford is the biggest Ford truck dealership in the entire state of Ohio. They have the largest selection of Ford F-150s and Super Duty trucks, and they will not be beat on price by any other Ford dealer. You see right up there, employee pricing for everybody. You pay less than what they pay. That's pre-tariff pricing on all Fords, over 500 vehicles in stock on their lot in Canfield, Ohio, as we speak. So don't let that short drive prevent you from saving literally thousands of dollars on your new ride. Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and same hometown level of service. Scan that QR code or go give their website a visit, fairwayfordohio.com. Again, that's fairwayfordohio.com. Guys, June 10th through 12th is the Browns mandatory minicamp. Really the last portion. We'll be able to see them on the field until real training camp begins late July, and then the season will be right there to start before we know it. Some of the interesting battles will start here. The offensive line. DeJuan Jones came into camp apparently down 20 pounds in an effort to secure that left tackle spot, potentially replacing Jedrick Wills for the spot to be determined in the future. Browns did not draft an offensive lineman. That was interesting, Jack. You mentioned here, despite expiring contracts for both Batonio Teller and actually Ethan Posick. Can DeJuan Jones this year cement himself as the Browns' future left tackle?
Wait, we're about to get a good view on Andrew Berry drafts because they didn't draft one this year, but they've drafted one for the last how many ever years that Andrew Berry has been the GM. Zach Zinter, it's your time. Luke Whippler, it's your time. You're going to see some of these young guys have to step in. after this year to protect whoever the quarterback will be. I do think DeJuan Jones can win that starting job. I don't know if it'll be left tackle. Maybe they put him back to his natural position at right tackle. I know he lost a lot of the weight because he said that you
better not find it.
Got to be a whole lot smaller and more athletic to play left tackle and to protect a blind side. So I'm really pulling for, and I believe DeJuan Jones can bounce back. I will buy DeJuan Jones bouncing back and being the starting left tackle for the Browns this year.
All right, well, we look at the wide receiver room. Deontay Johnson, we're yet to see him really in brown and orange doing anything for the Cleveland Browns. I assume that will change as we get to mandatory minicamp. Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver one for the Cleveland Browns going into the season, no doubt about it. Then you got Cedric Tillman, potentially would see some of Jamari Thrash, Michael Woods. Other than that, guys, I think this is the year you're going to need one of those guys. I assume it'll be Cedric Tillman to step up and really give the Browns a deep threat.
So I had a funny report that came out of training camp, and there was a day where it was Cedric Tillman and Michael Woods were both injured off to the sides doing individual work. It was literally Jerry Jeudy, Jamari Thrash, and a bunch of undrafted free agent rookies that are there on tryout basis, that got invited back to participate in the offseason activities, including OTAs, minicamp, and training camp. Like, the depth chart throughout voluntary OTAs was quite literally Jerry Jeudy as your wide receiver one and Jamari Thrash as your wide receiver two. They need to add somebody to this room. I'm not sold on Cedric Tillman. Like, even though this is a year where they're not going to win games, this is a year where things probably aren't going to be that serious. If you are going to get a clear and concise evaluation of these young quarterbacks, there has to be somebody to throw them the ball to. And I know that you've got Njoku and Harold Fannin Jr. are going to play a role in the passing game, but you need some actual NFL wide receivers. I would look to try to make a trade with the Green Bay Packers.
Deontay Johnson's coming, bro.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
No.
I'm gonna shut him down right now. If I was Andrew Berry, I would literally cut Deontay Johnson on the spot. I'm not even trying to be funny right now. He's been on 5 teams in this, the last year. He's been on 5 teams basically in the last 12 months. He got cut from a team because he didn't want to play in the first place. The guy doesn't even love football. He didn't want to play. That's why the Ravens had to get rid of him. You come in here this year, you're borderline asking him to be your starting slot wide receiver. Like, that's where all the reports are. That's where he's projected to be as of right now. And he can't even show up for a week in early June. Like, I don't know. I'm really, really out on that guy.
It's voluntary, though. So
more than 2 guys?
That's not going to happen.
Like, I feel like the slot will just be the 2. I swear we're just going to be running 2 and 3 tight ends all year. Like, we have nobody out there. There might be just one receiver sets where it's just
maybe.
Judy.
And I mean, there is something. Hey, I will say there's something to be said about but look at the quarterbacks that they have, and that they're going to play. It's Kenny Pickett, who has literally no NFL success. I don't care about the 4 or 5. I don't mean that
That's
meanly.
a Super Bowl champion,
dude. This is a guy that had 4 or 5 good games with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, he
4
has
or 5 might be a
That's a lot.
That's a lot. He has no, NFL success. And then you've got 2 mid-round quarterbacks. Call it for what it is. Dylan Gabriel was overdrafted. Nobody had him as a top 100 pick. And Shedeur Sanders, who fell all the way to round 5, and he has some holes in his game that they want to work out. Maybe the easiest thing to do is to dumb down this offense to the absolute nuts and bolts. Let it be Jeudy, let it be Thrash or Deontay Johnson, and then tight end it up. And you're not throwing the ball no more than 10 yards down the field. Everything's safe. You're valuing completion percentage. You're moving the chains, and it's not the explosive Ken Dorsey, whatever it was that they tried to make work with Deshaun Watson last year. Maybe they do. Just dumb it all the way down.
Yeah, that's my take there. I think that's why the wide receiver room will be depleted and is so depleted. They're just not planning on it.
They just don't care. Everybody else,
we don't care.
They're like, the Eagles, they won the Super Bowl. They have a receiver that won the Heisman Trophy in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, who could lead the league in receiving if he was the only receiver in there. Let's roll out Jerry Jeudy and Jamari Thrash and see what happens.
All right. Well, I think it's safe to say that it's going to be a nauseating couple of next months until we get who the starting quarterback week 1 will be for the Cleveland Browns, but that's not going to be anytime soon. There were 2 OTA practices that have been open to the media. In the second one, Flacco actually took fewer reps than the other 3 quarterbacks, so I'm not sure that's something you can read into. Pickett was first in warm-up lines again. Gabriel got a few chances with the number 1s. Shedeur, again, last in line, didn't take any reps with the number 1s. And Jack, I like how you noted here, he did, in fact, pull out the wrist up for the first time in brown.
Hey,
and
get that
orange.
confidence going. You never know.
They're just letting Unk rest. I'm starting to think they might actually just be saving Flacco. There could be a chance.
I think he's the starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I think there's
like-
he doesn't need the reps.
Yeah,
Like
they're
he's
just
played
letting
17
him
years in the
chill.
NFL. The other three have three combined years of experience, and they're all from Kenny Pickett.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think you guys are looking at the wrong. I think they're giving Kenny Pickett every single last opportunity to win.
I don't think
this
he's gonna
job.
do it though.
I think, but this is like, from my experience in like preseason when I was playing sports, it was the people who were gonna like be the guys when it started to ramp up were resting for periods like this. Like if they needed a day off or they would take fewer. They know the vets. Kenny's still got to learn whatever they're doing. Like he's new. Joe's
Right.
been here, so I mean, I feel like there's still that good chance in my mind with him. You know, he's sitting back. He's kind of just taking it easy. He might.
I mean, it should be Flacco. Could we
Yes.
please, like, I know we
It should
like
be.
we all think that it's going to be Kenny Pickett because we're expecting them. It's the first quarterback move that they made. They gave up a 5th round pick plus Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who they really like. He's been in this system before. They're over the moon complimentary of him every time they're asked about Kenny Pickett. But it should, if we're serious about winning football games and if we're serious about developing the 2 rookies that we did draft, it probably should be Joe Flacco, just because he gives you the best chance to win on a week in, week out basis. And Shedeur Sanders is the guy that would be able to break through this whole thing. Shedeur Sanders is the only guy on of the 5 quarterbacks that they have currently that can be the guy that is playing in Brook Park in 2029. They drafted Dylan Gabriel because he's a smart kid and he could turn into a 10-year backup. They brought in Kenny Pickett because he could be a fun reclamation project. But even if he is a reclamation project, they ain't paying him $20 million like what Sam Darnold just got next year because they're still trying to settle out their own albatross and Deshaun Watson. If there's one guy that could break through all of this, it's Shedeur, and I want Shedeur learning from Joe Flacco. I don't know what Shedeur is learning from Kenny Pickett, who has, again, no success in the National
The
Football
big
League.
ticket, man.
The big ticket. Well, if we could take any silver lining throughout what I said is going to be a couple nauseating months, at least it's hopefully going to be fun. We're going to see a lot of these quarterbacks throw because the last couple of years it's been no matter what the scenario is, no matter how bad or according to people good the offense happened to look at Greenbrier last year with Deshaun Watson, we're going to have a new page turned here for the Cleveland Browns. So I think that's at least a little silver lining. We got
most intrigue in this Browns training camp than we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
It's good. It could be the beginning of it does feel like kind of this is the year where you kind of really start afresh. And
It's
you
a new
see-
era, yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
still take stuff, obviously, from Baker when Kevin Stefanski first got here, mainly how the offense is going to go, but it does feel like a fresh start.
Story
All right.
of the season
How-
won't be a QB.
However, do things get weird if he gets cleared around October or November?
Absolutely, they do.
No, maybe if you're 0-8. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you're 0-8. You probably maybe haven't even rolled out Shedeur yet. So at that point, I
think
it's
it'd
just
be more of a protection thing. I think it'd be more of like a, hey, this offensive line is old. They're all in
Right.
the last year of their contract.
So we're just
Whippler was
gonna
hurt all of last year. He's not ready.
sacrifice, bro.
Yeah,
We're
but
just gonna
there's
throw
things-
him out
but-
there.
but
yeah,
you
just
also-
throw him out there. Yeah.
but you have to play Shedeur this year. You're not
You
rolling.
don't.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
you took him in the 5th round.
I know you don't have
Mahomes
to.
didn't
Give
play
him the
his first
Mahomes
year.
archetype in Madden. Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Dev
don't-
plus 10.
But if you don't figure out if you have a quarterback this year, it's different because you're set up next year to also take a first-round quarterback.
We're gonna.
But
take
what
a
if you-
so then
receiver,
you- what if you
and
take
we're
a
gonna
receiver and a left tackle?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what it's gonna be, bro.
And Shedeur set up to lead the
And then they
Browns
wait
in
another year, start the
2026.
car. CJ Carr will be out.
Well, the
they'll be fine.
storylines will be forever if Shedeur doesn't play a snap in the Cleveland Browns this year. They'll follow him no matter what. All right, we got to take a break. When we get back. Thunder even up the NBA Finals. It's now 1 apiece as they rout the Indiana Pacers in Game 2 right before the series flips to the Indiana. All right, we'll take a break and talk about that when we get back on the Big Factor. Hey, everybody, welcome back into the Big Factor here on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Padone, Rob Watson. Before we dive into Game 2 of the NBA Finals, got to tell you about our friends at Garage Beer. Garage Beer comes in just 2 flavors. You can see right up there, Classic Light Lager as well as Classic Lime. No frills, no bitterness, none of that IPA taste. It's just beer the way you want it, beer-flavored beer. Scan the QR code or go give their website a visit, drinkgaragebeer.com, to find local retailers who sell garage beer near you. Again, that's drinkgaragebeer.com. Well, the NBA Finals are tied 1 apiece. Thunder cruise in Game 2. They get the win 123-107. SGA drops 34 as the Thunder defense absolutely suffocates them again. Off the bench, this was interesting. Jack, you mentioned beforehand you had a player on the Thunder that you mentioned you wanted to play potentially for the Cavaliers next season. We'll get to that. But Caruso, 20 points from Alex Caruso off the bench. And then Wiggins also a monster game off the bench for the Oklahoma City Thunder. No Pacers scored 20 points. All starters in double digits again. Halliburton led with 17 points.
Pocketed, bro. Pascal Siakam's got to get it together, bro. He's getting pocketed by guards on switches. And they just, this is expected, though. I think the Pacers, they got what they wanted in Game 1. They're hoping to do damage in Indiana, but I think the Thunder have figured it out.
We also saw what they look like when they don't just hit every single three-pointer that they put up for the first time. Like the first time, like Nesmith and Nembhard have gone cold all series. I think those two in turn are combined to go like 6 to 17 from a 3 or something like that. Like that's more like what we saw. I mean, not in the regular season out of them, but like they came back down to earth a little bit. But guys, there's a guy on the Thunder bench who I absolutely want in Cleveland so bad. He is the Tim Duncan of Dean Wade's, from what I've gathered off of the probably 25 minutes of basketball I've watched him play in his life. Kendrick Williams, come on down. Free agent. It'll cost like $5 million. I am all the way in. That guy is an absolute spark plug off the bench. Fire me up. I want that guy.
Rob,
all right.
Your thoughts on that?
So we're out here hoping to get Lamar Stevens back on the Cavs is really what we're trying to do right now.
Sure. If that's what we need. He was the originator of the chain, right?
It's cool, bro, but like why? Just why? What?
I don't know. It's the building got going when he was in the game. Something about that got me going. I do have a couple of thoughts on the finals for you guys. As a getting into basketball person here. So I know this one has been an issue for a couple of years now. But you guys know when you watch like a TV show, right? You watch a couple seasons of it, whatever, you get into it, and then like one of the seasons randomly takes like 3 years to come out, and then you just like don't care when it comes out.
Yeah.
If they're in the city of Oklahoma City, why does that sounded dumb? Why does it take 45 days between Game 1 and Game 2?
I thought that
what are they
too.
doing?
Yeah, that was
why was it not like Saturday night? I was with some buddies watching sports, and I'm watching Red Sox Yankees in June. Like that's the best thing we have on. Like that's beyond stupid. That's a thing. Number 2 issue. The moment for Tyrese Halliburton might be the dumbest nickname I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
Up with that? I saw
no,
that.
they are like, and they are
pushing it,
pushing it so hard. It's the new big rig. It is the dumbest nickname in all of sports.
It's like what
the
were they
moment,
calling Tatum?
The
anomaly.
It's always the something.
Yeah.
Bro. It's so corny. Like
But he
some
is
like
the
some
moment.
2K generated
But
stuff.
Rob, he
that's not
comes
his
up
real
big
nickname,
in the moment.
bro. And we can't say it on TV, but that's not his real nickname,
No.
bro. That's the fans, the people name him, bro. But it is what it is.
And lastly, on the NBA Finals, on my list of things, why is the big Larry O'Brien trophy not through the team's logo in the center of the court like it was traditionally while we were growing up? Even if you throw it back to like, do you guys remember after the Cavs won the year after when they had like the
trophy
mini
next to
C's with the
the-
trophy?
Yeah.
That's the vibes I'm getting from what it is now. I think it looks stupid.
So I actually had to dig into this because it was living rent-free in my mind. Like the nostalgia wasn't there for Game 1, and then the little digitally imposed
So
Larry
garbage.
O'Brien trophies that were in like 480p. They were like blurry trophies that were superimposed digitally on the court, like amongst the rest of the ads. I'm like, I gotta research. Like, where did we go wrong? We used to be a proper country. Where did we go astray? It's like 10 years ago. They got rid of them and they cited player safety. So I don't know why you did that. I don't know who was
It's the
slipping
same
on those
thing
emblems.
What is the logo? So what are we gonna take the logos
logo
off the court?
And what makes the in-season tournament then safer? Because those they're painting
Those
the
has to
whole
be a
floor
hazard.
red during those. I don't know, though, now that they put that toothpaste out of the tube, that it's player safety, I don't know that you could go back on that. You can't walk that back.
You brought up a great point as well, and this transcends all sports, not just basketball. What is it with the holograms on stuff now? I think that is one of the dumbest things ever. Like, you remember when we were kids growing up, the Raptors had those like hologram like stands that said Raptors behind the court? That would always threw me off. Thought they were real for like 10 years, but even like when you're watching games now, they put like all the ads on like the ice and stuff.
Money.
I don't know. I think it looks so dumb.
Money. That's why they
Yeah,
do it.
it ruins the game, though.
The NBA Finals.
It's not a commercial. It's a sport.
The NBA Finals court literally looks like a NASCAR.
Yeah.
It does. All right, after game 2, does anybody have any faith that the Pacers can get it done this series? You mentioned game 1, Rob. You actually said the Pacers were going to win, but there's that learning curve when the Pacers, you play them for the first time in a series this late. You have to adjust to their high-tempo, high-octane offense.
We're going to get the most exciting. Well, the game 1 was the most exciting game. We're going to get another game like that in game 3. The Thunder are going to win, and their heart's going to be out of it after that. And I think that's just – I'm sticking with my prediction. I think they're going to win the next 3.
All right, well, we got to take another break. When we get back, we'll talk some Cleveland Guardians. They win the series finale, avoid the sweep from the Houston Astros. Bo Naylor getting it together a little bit. We'll talk about that when we get back on The Big Factor. Hey, everybody. Welcome on back into the Big Factor on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Padone, Rob Watson. Guys, is the honeymoon phase for one Stephen Vogt and the Cleveland Guardians over? I want to ask you and get your thoughts on that. But before, the Guardians avoid the sweep from the Houston Astros. They win the series finale 4-2 after dropping the first 2 games. Bo Naylor broke it open in the second inning, 2-run home run. He went 3 for 4 this game, scored twice. His batting average is up to 187. Will Wilson dropped down the sacrifice bunt in the 7th inning that led to an error to score Nolan Jones, and then it was all Guardians from that point. Bybee, another strong outing, 6 and 3rd innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 6 Ks on the season. He's now 4-6, 4 quality starts. That leads the Cleveland Guardians, as well as a 3.81 ERA that also leads the team starters.
So are we talking about Stephen Vogt here? Is that what you wanted to get into?
Is there any player before we dive into Stephen Vogt, because that will kind of encapsulate the whole team?
See, I was thinking we start there, then we can dive.
Okay, start from the top.
Start
go to
from
the
the
bottom.
top.
A lot
Yeah,
of
you
people
gotta
questioning Stephen Vogt's decisions. Mainly, I've seen a lot about pinch hitting. Why you take out Nolan Jones? Does he relying too much on analytics, lefties versus righties? Jack, your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot at hand here. Like, I saw people calling for him yesterday a bit for not taking out Bybee. Well, Vogt's in a really tough position with his bullpen right now because he's not getting a ton of innings out of his starting pitchers, and I don't envy him having to decide between Festa, Enright, and Jacob Junis for 3 of his 8 options out of the bullpen. Like, he's put a little bit behind the 8 ball from the start with that, but yeah, I think there is a little bit too much with the pinch hitting. I mean, it's tough because you have to account for, like, ways different guys play, and like if you have Jonk up, yeah, you're gonna have to pinch hit him for Nolan Jones because like that's the only way you're gonna get Jonk even close to enough bats to play on a regular basis. But man, I mean, Nolan Jones 2 years ago in 2023 had a 900 OPS against left-handed pitching, so I think it's worth maybe giving him a try, especially if he's starting to hit the ball against righties right now. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to finally bring up J-Rod. I don't think it's worth freaking out over Vogt, but I think we got to take a lens back a little bit and look at the start of last year and how not fake it was, but how it jaded our perspective of Stephen Vogt and the Vogt era Guardians so far. If you take out the first 2 months of last season, and I could be wrong about this, I would think this team's been playing 500 baseball for the last 150 games it's played. I could be wrong about that, but this team got off to a really, really hot start. They played a division and held serve past the All-Star break last year, made the playoffs, beat up on a Tigers team, went in, played the Yankees a little bit tough, even though it was a close or a short series. I think they're an okay baseball team, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think Stephen Vogt's doing a solid job so far with an okay baseball team, but there clearly needs to be some additions before we like seriously consider this an ALCS team again.
And like the thing with there was so much Stephen Vogt slander online this week. Here's the thing. He doesn't have a bat. And if he did have a bat, he'd still be playing, you know?
He'd be better than Dom Nunez. Yeah, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, like, so you can't really put all of the blame on Stephen Vogt here because he's not out there playing. He's not the one that's swinging at, balls in the other strike zone.
It's getting real ugly with that, by the way.
Who did I text you that had the worst swing I had ever seen in my life yesterday? It was the center fielder, bro. He was up.
Oh, Angie.
It was terrible,
we might need to have a conversation about him today. Not a serious conversation, but we got to stop hitting him in the 2-hole against right-handed pitching. I'm sorry. I've said it a million times on the show. I think there's a good baseball player in Angel Martinez. He crushes left-handed pitching. He even has a little bit of power against right-handed pitching as well. But you can't be a serious baseball team with him hitting in the 2-hole against right-handed pitching. He's hitting I think 210 against righties this year. He's hitting 130 over his last 15 days. Like we gotta cut it on him in the 2-hole. And I know there's not like a clear, hey Jack, who's gonna take over the 2-hole? I know there's not really an answer for that, but cycle through again. It's just a cursed spot, isn't it? Like whoever we put in the 2-hole this year has not been able to hit, and it's gone back a couple of years now. Like Amed Rosario for a while, that didn't work out. Andres Gimenez got a shot in the 2-hole, that didn't work out. He found himself in the 6-hole. Like it's been an issue for a while now, and someone's got to break it. It ain't Lane Thomas. I got bad news.
All right, well, Jack, the Guardians' right field spot has been a thorn in the organization for quite some time. Do we have an update or any of your thoughts on CJ Kafis, Chase DeLauder, on when they might get their call up to the major leagues?
Yeah, I want to get your
have
guys'
a
thoughts
conspiracy
on this.
Because
it's such a weird spot because, mind you, once again, we have a roster where we have 3 guys on our roster. 2 of them can only play first base, and 1 of them can only DH. So you're at an inherent disadvantage of positionally where you can play guys already by having Manzardo, Santana, and Fry on the same roster. I'm not saying get rid of any of those 3, but like you only have limited options with that. Nolan Jones struggled for the first 2 months of the year. He's had the most RBIs on your team in the last 2 weeks. He's starting to hit the ball a little bit, so it's kind of tough to get rid of Nolan Jones right now. I think you push him into center field for the time being. You play him every day against right-handed pitching and kind of give him his last final shot of, okay, here's 20 games. You figure it out. Are you going to be in this lineup or no? We can DFA you. If not, I think he's going to work out. But hey, it's time to give him that one final push, give him some at-bats against lefties, let him figure it out. You got to call up DeLauder, I think. I think it's time. You put him in right field. Left field, you got Quan. You go Angie in center field against lefties, so he can platoon with Nolan there. I think you trust Schneemann for the time being to hit against lefties. I know he struggles against lefties more than righties, but you play him at second. You give Gabby short, and you give DeLauder the shot in right. He platoons with J-Rod. That's all you can do right now. I know Rocchio's hitting the ball, but someone's got to take Will Wilson's roster spot, and I think Schneemann and Arias are playing too well to take away from their at-bats right now, so it's got to be Wilson for DeLauder, I think. That's what I would do.
Wow. I don't know that we see Kafis or DeLauder until after the trade deadline. How about that for a conspiracy?
I don't think that's honestly what if it was up to me, that's where my head would be at.
Because J-Rod, now that J-Rod is back up for Big Christmas, I think he'll platoon with Nolan Jones. I think get ready for a ton of Nolan Jones from the entire month of June and really most of July until the trade deadline, because they're going to really see what they've got in this dude. They traded Tyler Freeman for him 1-for-1. They like Nolan Jones. They bring him back to the organization. Now you get a true look of what he can do in the bigs with consistent at-bats. And that leaves Chase DeLauder kind of without a spot until they get that true look, over the next couple of months at Nolan Jones. So I'm going to say we're not going to see Chase DeLauder until August 1st. And I think fans would be really upset about that, especially because you've got a window now where he's healthy. He's hitting the ball a little bit better. I know he's batting his average is in the hundreds on a small sample size this season, but there is an avenue to bring him up right now. We just know this organization is responsible and slow moving about how they do things. I don't think they're going to force him up here.
I agree with that. I think they're also big into giving guys a full look and making sure that they're going to have the right amount of at-bats from the get-go. I know Juan Brito's been hurt, but that's why you haven't seen Juan Brito yet at any point over the last 2 years. They want to have guys come up and get a full look. Lane Thomas will come back at some point in time, believe it or not. I don't know when that is, and they're going to have to run him back out there a couple more times. If you can't tell, I'm all the way out on Lane Thomas now. I don't know when that switched in me, but I'm I don't know. I'm about done with him, but
Dude,
that's the thing is too.
It's nothing. It's not his fault to kind of explain your point. He's a free agent this year. You've got so many other options that you need to look at, and you're probably going to trade him at the deadline. So, like, sure, you have to give him a couple more starts so you could trade him for something, but we know that Lane Thomas isn't in the long-term view.
So what trades can they make for you guys to get you really more excited about the team?
Here's the thing,
Good
they're,
question.
they're not going to make a trade that gets Jack excited,
Okay.
or
No, I think
most
they-
fans.
well,
Well, actually,
I
I take
think-
that back. They're not
Well,
going to
no,
make. They're not going to make a trade that would make a casual fan happy.
Well, but okay,
they'll
well,
make
they
a
may-
trade
There are
that
things
makes
they can do,
Jack happy.
like, and again, I'm no secret a Nolan Jones guy. Say if he works out right, you start to get him more at bats, he picks up over the next couple of months. Like, okay, you've stabilized a guy who, if he trends where he's been recently, he'll probably end this year with like somewhere between 13 to 16 home runs because he will pick up his power eventually. That's been the staple of his whole entire career to this point. The average is already back up to like 220, 230. That stabilizes the spot in the outfield. Okay, you got him and Quan now, and then between J-Rod, Lane, someone, Jonk, you have to pray you find a right-handed hitting outfielder at some point in time. If not, that's where you go out and get the deadline. Then, boom, you move up. You find out if DeLauder can take right field. He's 23 years old now. Hey, we got to figure out about him a little bit, too, at some point.
Right.
I know we want to hold him down, and he has the injury issues, but you do have to get DeLauder up here at some point. So it really would come down to that infield, or if they can get something out of... Because there's a world where, hey, let's say, for example, Nolan Jones does work out and can give you like a 780 at bat in the 780 OPS bat in the outfield, play right field, be solid, play every day, right? There's a world where then you consider, I don't think Chase DeLauder's untouchable then if that happens, right? Like, and then you start looking into, okay, do we need to go out and get a starting pitcher? Can we bolster this bullpen? Hey, can we upgrade from Bo Naylor, a catcher, or get something up the middle? I don't know. I'm still honestly...
You just said like everything. So
Yeah, I
you
know,
don't care
but
what position.
but what I'm
it
going to
is.
say though still is, as dumb as it sounds, I'm still honestly most worried about second base and shortstop. And I know that sounds so laughable with how the outfield has been so far this year, but I don't know. I think Gabriel Arias is going to help this baseball team the whole entire year. I think there's a very good baseball player in there. He hits the ball hard. I think Angie can help in center field or up the middle, but I'm still not totally sold on the Daniel Sheeman experience all the way. So I think we're going to need some help, and
So-
we should see Brito before we see any outside adjustments.
Middle
So.
infield catcher and everyone in the outfield except Stephen Kwan.
More
Go
or less.
get bats, more bats. When you think you have enough bats, go get 2 more bats.
Gosh.
All right, we got to take a break. When we get back, we're not moving away from the Cleveland Guardians. Big Christmas turns into big Columbus. Jose Ramirez is being Jose Ramirez. And the Cincinnati Reds come to town to continue the battle for the Ohio Cup. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Big Factor. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Big Factor here on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan Tyler, Jack Rourke, Nick Padone, Rob Watson. Continuing our Cleveland Guardians talk, Jack, John Kenzie Noel officially optioned to Columbus for Jonathan Rodriguez. Batting 146, just 2 home runs and 9 RBIs. This was just a matter of time. Twitter was calling for it, and it seems like the Guardians delivered.
I don't know that I've ever seen an outfielder with an OPS under 4.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I mean, we talked about it last week. Like, if you walked up there with no limbs, would you have a 400 OPS? Like, it's tough. I mean, I feel bad for Jonk in some ways, but it was time for this to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen with him because he's a guy to have success that needs probably at least 350 at-bats in a season. I don't know if there's a clear path for that to happen in Cleveland anytime soon based off of Chase DeLauder needing to come up, Valera maybe getting a chance, Petey Halpin's playing good baseball in Columbus as well, Nolan Jones is picking it up in Cleveland, Lane Thomas exists and costs more than $5 million, so he'll get another try. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to close the book. Actually, now I'm going to close the book on Big Christmas. Never mind.
GG.
man, it isn't baseball a funny sport? Like, unlike football and basketball, that in the postseason, you know, if someone did in the NBA what Big Christmas did against the Yankees. I mean, household
TJ Warren
name.
got contracts for years.
Yeah, household
it's so
name.
different though, because like you wouldn't get a. I feel like he's kind of like he's with you're talking about how they won't even play every day. That would never happen in a playoff game where someone would get a chance to take the last shot like that.
It would just be the equivalent of like
a tip in from
it
like
would
someone
be
who
like
never
2002 NBA basketball before everyone just had a strap and they just like called rookie Kyle Korver off the bench and were like, all right, hit the game winner. Like that's what it would have been.
Or it's like in the NFL, like you're
Joe Milton comes in for the Hail Mary.
You're
That's
in
literally what it
the
would have been.
divisional game and you hand the ball on 3rd and 1 to some third down back who breaks it. Boston Scott, sends a team to the Super Bowl. Like that's kind of the comparison. And for Big Christmas, it's unfortunate because the Oscar Gonzalez comparisons are certainly out there as a guy that is so loved here and gave us one of the best and most memorable moments that we'll all have for this baseball team. And I'll forever be a big Christmas fan because that one moment was so fun. But it is unfortunate that his time in Cleveland is up, and in order for him to get back here, a lot of things got to go wrong.
There's also sometimes like kind of sad moments in sports, like when Miles Straw got called up the one game last season and all he was a pinch runner and he got thrown out, he got picked off first base, right? You can't help but feel bad for the guy because he's a nice guy, he's trying his best. There's nothing funnier than seeing Jonathan Rodriguez come up and just knock one into the outfield his first day on the roster. Like back on the roster in Junk's spot.
Well, next up for the Cleveland Guardians, Tito Francona and the Cincinnati Reds come into town. They're 33-33. Funny enough, their run differential is plus 38. The Cleveland Guardians are above 500, 4 games to be exact, while their run differential is negative 19. Cincinnati Reds got the better of our Cleveland Guardians when they traveled to Cincinnati for the first series of the Ohio Cup. What are we looking for out of the Reds Guardians series?
Okay. We trade Stephen Vogt and Gabriel Arias for Terry Francona and Will Benson. Who says no?
All right, we got to go back to
Probably the Cincinnati Reds might say no to that one. All right, but we do got to take a break. When we get back, we'll wrap it up. Honor of Nick Chubb. We'll just tell you basically who our favorite Cleveland athletes of all time. I think for a lot of people, maybe for me, Nick Chubb would be number 1, but I guess I got to pivot somewhere else now that he's a Houston Texan. All right, we'll be right back on The Big Factor. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Big Factor on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan, Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Padone, Rob Watson. Just got a little bit over a minute as we're wrapping up here in The Big Factor. We talked earlier, first segment on today's show, The Big Factor. Nick Chubb is expected to sign with the Houston Texans. Amazing memories here in Cleveland, and one of just the most amazing people on the field and off the field that we've, quite frankly, I've ever seen in my lifetime in Cleveland. You talk about the Jose Ramirez's of the world, the LeBrons, James's of the world when he was here. Nick Chubb just held a special place in everybody's heart in Cleveland. All right, guys, I guess we'll all just do one. Your favorite Cleveland athlete of all time can't be Nick Chubb.
Dead tie between Mo Gotti, Mo Williams, and Lonnie Baseball, Lonnie Chisnell.
Wow. All right. 2 good polls there. I'll go with the guy that won the championship and broke the 52-year drought, and I'll go with LeBron James.
Mid.
All right, so he took my guy, so I'll go Kyrie Irving.
Mid.
All right, I'll pull one out of the weeds. A guy that I really respected and I really liked and I loved to watch him play baseball here was Michael Brantley.
Yeah, Dr. Smooth.
Dr. Smooth. And honestly, a lot of the outfielders. I loved Lonnie Chisholm. Grady Sizemore was awesome before the injuries, but I'll go Michael Brantley. There's so many we can think of that have come in through Cleveland and made such an impact.
Colt McCoy.
I don't know about that one. But Nick Chubb, best of
Massaquoi.
Corey Coleman, Justin Gilbert.
Kwame Brown.
All right, we're out of time. Appreciate everybody tuning into The Big Factor here, whether you're watching on Big Play or The Rock. Huge shout out to Garage Beer Fairway Ford. Remember, Call It Companies Championship coming up next week. Go get your tickets, callitgolf.com. We'll be there. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be so much fun. And until then, we'll see you next time. Peace out.